evening and welcome to tonight's show from DJNTV, Disc Jockey News TV. Tonight's show is brought to you by Electra Voice, DJ Event Planner, DJ Trivia, Odyssey Innovative Designs and Cases, NLFX Professional, Promo Only, and the DJNTV Insiders.
DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Really, John? Really, John? I hear I'm trying to fix a camera, and you're telling me we're going live.
We're live. Ta-da!
We're live. Oh, no, we can't be live.
Oh, okay. Okay, hang on. Dan, we're going to go live in 10, 9, 8.
Oh, now you tell me. Okay. First, you tell me to fix my camera.
3.
Anyway, welcome to your Monday night show, everybody. Thank you very much for taking time to view us, because I know like there's football going on. It's like Monday Night Football. There's like 8,000 games going. Okay, maybe 2, but there's football going on, and yet you chose to spend some time with us. And if you're not choosing to do us live, well, then even better, because you took time out of your busy work week to be able to tune in. So thank you very much for doing that. We got some great things happening for you tonight. Do not mind the man behind the camera, behind the desk.
Yeah, that's
John's like, can you fix your camera? Sure. And then,
and 3,
by the way, we're live.
2, 1. Yeah, here we are.
So anyway, John, I missed you, man. Last week it was weird not being here.
Yeah, there aren't too many Monday nights that we're not doing something. Even if both of us aren't on camera, typically we're still communicating at some level. So when we have a week where we don't, it's like, wow, it's just weird.
It was. But we've got a great topic tonight.
We do.
When you hit us up about this, I was like, you know what? This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be informative.
I think so. I think this is an area. The topic tonight, we're going to be talking about finding help when you have events where you're going to need extra hands for whatever reason. And this is something that a lot of us as single operators, when I was a multi, it was a lot easier because I could just schedule someone to be there as those extra hands. And in the past, the extra hands might have been for the times we were running a huge sound and light show, and I didn't want to be ripping down for 4 hours. You needed the second person. Or if I needed someone to handle video, some video recording things, doing photo booth, what have you. I mean, there's just been a variety of different things over the years. Generally, though, most of the time it's been when I've had systems that required, whether it's 2 different complete systems and they needed one knocked down and this setup over there, or it was just like we did a college where we ran a 24 sound speaker system. And we needed so many people to set that up because it was an outdoor thing and had to be set up in an hour. It had to be ripped down in 40 minutes. It took 4 people, those types of things. So I wanted to talk about where do we as single operators find people, because I don't have the staff anymore. So,
wait a minute. You got like 20 kids. Surely you've got staff in house.
Well, that gets us to the first option. Because I've got 12 different little topics or little things that we'll be able to hit. Is the first off, we'll talk about utilizing family when it comes to these things, and I want to basically make sure we're hitting the pros and the cons of each one, because some have some positives, some have a lot of negatives, and then we can go from there. So Dan, since you brought up the kids, that was the first one, a family. Your kids are too young yet, or a little on the little side yet. I mean, come on, get that subwoofer over here.
Not going to work. The 10-year-old would love to. Just sometimes I also wonder what the appearance to some of the venues would be when you're walking in with the 10-year-old.
Come on, Junior, get that speaker up there. But Dad,
I will say this: my wife was, if you will call this, my wife was my first roadie. When we were first married, before we had Brendan, it was one of those things where it was like, okay, what are you doing? You got a gig, all right? Why don't you come? She was my light person. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is back when you had park hands or pin, mini pin spots, and I'd have like 6 of them on a truss, on like an I-beam truss. That was her deal. Sure. She would set it up. She would make sure it looked pretty, and that was her deal. So working with her, and I'm adjusting heater here. Sorry, working with her. It's been a while since it's run. What were some of the positives about working with her, and then we'll look at maybe some of the drawbacks. So definite positive was the fact that it was somebody I knew I could trust. I knew what her schedule was.
Yep.
So there was definitely no downside to there. It gave us some of that together time. Mm-hmm. Just because we're doing events, you're busy every weekend, you don't really get to see each other much. And so even though she wouldn't do the whole event, she'd come, she'd help set up, she'd leave, she'd come back, she'd help her tear down, assuming it was close.
Yeah.
So we got to spend a little bit of extra time together on a Saturday where we might not have seen each other much at all. Mm-hmm. Drawbacks. Well, by the way, one other pro was I didn't have to shell out physical cash.
I was going to say, we need to hit the financial side of it too.
For the financial side, but her money was my money. So, she also knew how much I was bringing in on that event, and therefore,
and
so she got her cut either way.
And that's why Dan has been running the same speakers since 1890.
Not quite.
Okay.
But no, but some of the drawbacks came into the thing because I'm very particular. Mm-hmm. I'm very particular about things. And so when I would be doing my setups, it was one of those things where I would get a little, I don't want to say bossy,
testy,
but I would, what was that?
Testy.
Testy would probably be a better way to put it. I would get testy. And so it was one of those things where sometimes it was, all right, honey, calm down. I'm like, I'm fine. No, you just don't realize how you just talked to me. Okay, fair enough. She's probably right. So that would be definitely one of the drawbacks to it. The other side is, once we had a child, then that was it. Like, she was no longer along for the events. I mean, you're going to lose people along the way no matter what, but it was one of those things where it's like, that was a definite pro. We were going to have a baby boy. It was awesome. And now I need to find somebody else to help.
Yep. Yeah, I think the biggest, when Lori and I were working together, is those times where you're crunched, there's stress, and it's too easy to be a little testy or to snap at because you just assume, because they could read your mind 90% of the time, that they would be able to just know. And yet, or there's times where you're okay. The cable, you hold it like this, and you go over, and you go under, and over, and they feel like the people helping feel like you're patronizing them just a little bit once in a while when you're trying to explain how you want things done. So it was one of those things that there's a lot of positives with having family, specifically spouses help, and then there can be a lot of things that are negative. And then it becomes a kind of a weighing. It's like, okay, do the positives outweigh having to be in the doghouse for the next 3 days after the event? I mean, not that that's happened, but I've heard people who have had this, somebody once told a friend who told a friend that told me about it. So, it wasn't any of you guys out there, but it was someone else. Kids, it's a little bit different story with kids. Kids, there's the pay, the kids expect or would like to be paid. Maybe not paid the same as a different person, but the children, especially as they get into the teenage where they can actually help, are going to want to be paid a little bit. So that's maybe a drawback, we'll call that. Generally, their schedules, and they're in your house, so they're easily accessible. That's a positive. Sometimes they can be absolutely brain dead. That's part of being a teenager, middle schooler on up, where you can say, okay, here's a cable and this is how you wrap it. And they're like, what's that thing that you were just doing? Okay, here's a cable and this is, okay, let's go to something easier. That's a speaker, and you go and you take it off and then you fold up the speaker stand. And the next thing you know, they've extended the speaker stand all the way out. So it's this 8-foot thing instead of the 3. Sometimes they can be a little brain dead, but that's okay. That eventually goes away someday. Maybe I'll find that out when that does. So kids have been positive. I've had my own children helping with things, and I've had other people's children helping at different times. I find that that once my kids have gotten onto it, caught on to what we were doing, that they can go and they can basically do some of the tasks. Like my 5th grader, I can turn him out to go and stretch cables and roll cables, and he does a fabulous job now. It caught with him. Michael doesn't like to roll my cables because he doesn't like how I roll my cables, because I do it, I guess, left-handed and he does it right-handed. So we have that issue going on. Jeremy Landby, for those of you guys, Jeremy, he's very particular about his cables, and he taught Michael to do them a certain way. So we have those types of issues also. So
I know we just blame Jeremy for that one. That's not Michael's fault. That's Jeremy's.
Yeah, we could go with that and see how far it gets us. So let's try that one. So yeah. Family, certainly a good one. Let's jump on to our next one. Sometimes utilizing friends is a way to be able to get some additional help. So again, let's do some pros and cons with that. I'll let you throw some ideas out there, Dan.
So this is probably the one area where I've been able to say I kind of have this down, because the wife thing was quite a few years ago as everything was kind of getting started. But for the longest time, I had my photo booth, and the whole actual reason why I decided to get it, I shouldn't say the whole reason, but a good chunk of it was I was going to help my friend out. He was trying to pay off some bills, wanted to pay things off, and then he was going to propose to his girlfriend, and they were going to get married. So it worked out perfect. I wanted a photo booth, kind of, for my own selfish reasons. So it was like, okay, help him out, help me out. And he was my photo booth guy. So for the longest time, it worked out very nicely. Mm-hmm. And so some of the pros, again, you have a friend who, because of your friend, they respect you. They know what you want. So definite pro going on there. More often than not, they're dependable.
Yep.
They're a friend who's not going to back out on you because they value your friendship. And of course, I think we also got to put a big distinction here between friend and acquaintance. There's going to be your acquaintances who might not be as dependable, who might not care as much because they're not that tight knit friendship. Mm-hmm. So definitely pros there. Some cons though, when it comes to friends, is that, again, if you get testy, at least they're nice to forgive you. You don't have to worry about, well, the heck with you, I'm out of here type of attitude. But you do have to watch it, because you also have a friendship, and you want that friendship to still flourish. And so sometimes it's hard to walk the line between being a boss and being a friend, and when you're at the event. And so when you go into the situation, you definitely want to make sure that you recognize and just be like, listen, when we're here, nothing personal. I may treat you, I'm probably going to treat you like a boss, and you're going to be my employee. And when we're done and everything's struck, let's go have a drink together because we're buddies again. And during that time, we're going to walk that fine line, and know that there's nothing behind any negative that might come from it.
No malice is intended. Yeah. Yeah, I think probably the biggest concern, the trust, dependableness. When you have, obviously not all of our friends are as dependable as others, but you know what to expect. I think is probably the biggest. The biggest area though that I would feel is the negative side that you referred to, is that I don't want to burn a friendship. Relationship, yeah, the kids may be upset with me for a day or two because I got upset with how this was done, but at the end of the day, we're still related, and they're still going to probably be at the table for Christmas type of thing, for the Christmas meal. A friend, if something happens and there's a falling out, I don't know if I want to have my business being something that was part of the falling out of a friendship, especially if it's been a good one. Obviously, if it's a really good friendship, it probably wouldn't have a problem. But the area that not only the being testy and short a little bit could be an issue, but I think the area that is often overlooked is the whole money issue. Is yes, I could pay them $100 a night, and I think I'm paying them well because every other person in that does that type of job is the photo booth operator is getting paid $100 a night. Well, they might like, gosh, if they're my friend and they're paying me this little bit, and they had a check for $2,000 and they're paying me $100, they might start to feel that you're not respecting them enough and paying them to what they feel that they should be compensated for the night. So money in relationships like that can get ugly quickly. So definitely areas in which if you're going to be handling or doing that one, I think there's almost more red flags with that one or potential concerns.
I think one of the ways to at least maybe cut that off of the head, before it ever gets to that issue is just, flat out up front, this is what it's going to be. And a lot of times what I ended up doing, especially with my guy who was my photo booth guy, was he got paid his price, but then, I often would give him an extra, 25, 30, 40 bucks, whatever it might be. If he was helping with my setup, if he was helping, if he was doing those other things rather than just running the photo booth and handling that. And I think what ends up happening was when they get that extra kickback, it's almost like, it's that extra surprise. It's like when we get a tip at the end of the night, we don't expect it, but when it happens, it's nice. Kind of that same type of idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly that nice little bonus, and sharing the positives and negatives like that. Good. This is going to be just a variation thereof. We have our friends, our circle of friends, which could be anyone from an hour, whatever distance away. And then you would have your neighbors. Sometimes your neighbors and might be friends, or it might be more of the acquaintances, as Dan was just threw that out there, is that there's a difference between friends and acquaintances. Sometimes you've got to tap a neighbor to be involved with it. My thought with this is that it is more of that acquaintance, someone that Fred, who's lived next door to me for 20 years, and I know Fred has a job during the week, and on Saturdays he doesn't have much to do. I need it. I'm desperate for a set of hands. It's like, Fred, can you come and help me? To be able to tap someone that you know and know of them well enough to have a relationship, but yet you're not having dinner at Fred's house 3 times a week type of thing or whatever. Mm-hmm. My biggest concern with that particular is, while they're probably dependable, and they're probably, you can trust them because obviously you've lived next to them for a period of time, is that if they're not having any kind of a connection or they've never been really involved with the entertainment world whatsoever, sometimes when you're pulling very dependable people in to be part of this, even if it's just a setup, that that type of person I found when I've worked with them is that they have that glaring at the dance floor thing going on. Just sitting there during the show. They just haven't been exposed to that. And because they're doing it just once or a one-off here or there, grabbing them at the last minute, we haven't had time to prepare them. We haven't had time to coach them or what have you. And then all of a sudden we have a good-hearted person who's trying to do their best and do whatever, but they just don't have that. They've never been in that situation before. Have you had an experience where you tapped a neighbor or someone closer like that?
I haven't, but one of the red flags that I can't think comes to mind with me is when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking if I tap that neighbor to help me out, especially assuming that it might be a last minute type of situation, I almost feel like now I've asked a favor. It's almost like, I've gone next door to borrow the sugar.
Yeah.
So at what point are they going to come back and ask me for the favor? Even though I'm paying them, even though, I'm providing that, I almost wonder, if there's that obligation factor now, because again, they're not friend, they're not stranger who's being hired for a job. They're coming along to help us kind of out of nowhere.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. There's so many little nuances on how that would work. So, continuing on, sometimes, and this happened back in the mid 2000s when I was working at the church and doing things on a regular basis, is that you would have an event, you needed hands. And of course, I know this great group of people from church. and said, "Hey, would you be able to help on Saturday night to move speakers and such?" It sounded like such a great idea on paper. It's like, I know these people, the guys, they work during the week, and we have our Bible studies and things together. On Saturday, they're not really doing much of anything. Some family time in a day, and in the evening they'd be free. And the event that I had asked them to help with wasn't anything that would be like a sketchy, weird situation. But they were reliable, dependable, and I could trust that they were going to not do anything to embarrass the company from being loud, obnoxious, or negative that way. The part that was the problem with that particular set of hands is that we're in the entertainment, and we're in a fun business. And yes, there are fun, entertaining people there, but we've taken someone who may or may not be comfortable in front of a crowd, and we've brought them into a situation that they're new to. And now they're going to see, because most of us, we do have two personalities. We have our person who goes to church and does that, and then we have the person who's out there performing. Not that they're going to be going from this, saint to sinner type of a thing, but it's a different, more dynamic, more exuberant personality that we're going to have out here when we're performing. And it kind of freaked out a couple of the guys when we were doing it, because they were like, "Oh, wait a second. This is different. This isn't like what we're used to." And it was a little culture shock. And then, of course, when people are dancing in front of them, they were off to the sides and kind of hidden. But you've got young ladies who are out there dancing on a dance floor. It doesn't matter if it's a corporate event. This particular one was corporate. And sometimes they just felt really uncomfortable because that wasn't the type of world that they live in. So it worked, but it probably wouldn't have been my first choice looking back at it.
Well, and you hit on it. I mean, no matter the event, no matter what, I shouldn't say no matter the event, but for majority of your events that you're going to do, even though they're not sketchy, doesn't mean some sketchy things can't happen. And it can very, very easily make an uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
I had now the one of the people that I ended up having help me there for a few months last year was actually a former pastor at my church, and we were friends. So it kind of fell into both of those lines. And I still remember one of the venues that we were at, just the way the seating was and everything else. All of a sudden he turned to me and he goes, "I just saw something I shouldn't have." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "Let's just say she didn't get into the chair the best way." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So, but it was just one of those things where I kind of had to feel like I felt bad because he wasn't trying to. It was just kind of like, there. So, sometimes you do have to, I don't want to say warn them, but, just be aware that, hey, sometimes people don't exactly act the same that in a public setting that they might at the local grocery store.
Okay. Continuing on, my next one's a twofer. Next one, I want to talk about finding help from school. Now, because both of us came from a teaching background, we're going to first talk about having fellow teachers lend a hand, and then moving to finding students. The fellow teacher thing. This is an area in which when we were doing some game show things, I thought I've got a couple of teachers who are up in front of the classroom. They do some game type things with the kids, and they're comfortable with that. And I thought, they would be great to be a co-host for an event I had going on, a corporate event that we had going on up in Alexandria. So it's like, would you like to? Oh yeah, sure, great. Being in front of teenagers is what they were is one thing. Getting them in front of adults, it didn't work whatsoever. And I don't know if you've ever worked with any of your coworkers there.
I have a good friend of mine who does that. He's got a multi-op company up in Erie, and he on his staff he's got and just his main DJs, he's got 4 that are teachers that he's either works with or has worked with, or has had a connection with in some form or fashion. So just it very kind of interesting that you brought that one up, because instantly when you mentioned it, I'm like, that's Mark. That's what, that's what he does. And he's kind of said the same thing to me. I've reached out. So when my photo booth guy moved out of the area, I reached out trying to fill, not from a game show standpoint or from one of those type standpoints, but rather from even just the photo booth. I'm like, they're people.
Yeah, exactly.
And what I ended up running into was my teacher friends didn't want to work on the weekend.
There is that too, but
like they're like, listen, Monday through Friday, I'm busting my back, with everything. And some of them are staying late and coming in early. Like by the time weekend hits, it's relax mode.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to have to do it. So yeah. It's harder. I feel like it's harder to find, one, because of what you said, what you think they're going to respond to in front of adults is different than what they do with kids. But then also just, no, I'm good. And depending upon the district too, some districts it'd be very easy to find because they don't pay very well at all. And then others, they pay well enough that they're like, I really don't need a second job.
Yeah.
Even though it's, just drinking money or whatever.
Yeah. Fun money. Yep. Well, that actually, continuing on, finding students, some of my area schools, when I would do dances at the schools and we were in our multi-app, that was, to a point, that was kind of a recruiting ground. And it wasn't so much that I was there and it's like, oh, how about you want to DJ? No, you'd see a kid at homecoming and you're like, they had some really good requests and they seem like a pretty good kid. And then you start just paying attention, especially when I was doing 3 or 4 dances at these schools. And I found 4 of my best DJs through this particular manner. Now, there's times where we need help, and you could ask some of these kids to get involved. As I mentioned earlier, when my kids have been doing some things when the boys are with me, they have a level of help. Sometimes we've been able to pull a couple of their friends or some other kids from the school. The biggest thing I'm finding with teenagers, though, gets right back to, Dan, what you just said about the Saturday nights. No, that's our gaming night. Me and the guys get together and we play whatever game it is. I don't even know what game it is anymore. Actually, I think my teenagers were playing Minecraft the other day again, which surprised me. But that making $100, $200 on a Saturday night doesn't excite or doesn't get kids motivated anymore as like it used to. As teenagers, we'd have gone out. I can make $50 tonight. Woo! I would have been like gone. Back in that day. And now, here we are, 30 years later, and you can't get kids to go, yeah, $200. Me and my buddies are going to go and have pizza tonight.
Yeah, they don't view it the same, and I also feel like the dependability factor goes through the roof there.
Yeah. Yeah, and a great point with that, because Jeremy Lambie has a lot of younger DJs, whether they're in college, what have you, and that's probably his biggest struggle, is that reliability factor.
We're going to commit to it. Day before, date comes up. Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, I can't make it tonight. I'm sick.
Yeah.
And
and then you see the post later on.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, really?
Wow, you were sick at the movie theater, then you were sick at and then you were over there being sick. Oh, you poor thing. Must have been tough. Okay, we kind of touched on this one. I want to jump ahead. So let's talk about other established DJs. We need help. We're going to be doing a big event and tapping some of our DJ network. Let's talk about some of the pros and potential cons of doing something like this.
Well, I think the obvious pro comes into the fact that, assuming you're tapping the right people, they have an idea of what they're doing. Whether it's handling your equipment with care, going in and out, or in and out of the venue, the decor of how they handle themselves while they're walking around. Those things are definitely going to be your major benefits. Huge drawbacks, though, if they're anybody of anything, they're probably going to want more than a roadie's fee.
True.
They're also probably going to be booked more often. Now, last minute, you might be able to snag them or something like that to be able to help out. But this is not somebody you're going to be able to set up and go, I've got this event coming up. I know I'm going to need an extra person. It's 8 months out. Hey, would you help me? Because they're not going to commit to anything
Right,
because
that part.
something could come up. And along those same lines, depending upon how dependable the person is and depending on how they are, they do agree to you. They get a last minute event that can pay 2-3 times as much. You know, it's kind of hard for them to say, you know,
Yeah.
I can't, I've got to go over here. Like it's an internal battle for them. So, and then I'll throw this one out because I'm sure there's people that are thinking this, they're going to steal all my secrets.
that was a huge thought back in the day.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole steal all of our secrets. Yeah, I think you
They're
covered
steal all
that.
the secrets that you've been posting all over Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. All the little video clips I put up in there, they can do that. But yeah, you covered that very, very well. I think that from my standpoint, I've had DJs help, but that the one that has always irked me or has been the concern is that, okay, if I book them in advance, and that we haven't had as many of the last minute bookings or the last minute calls where it's like, oh my gosh, my DJ for tomorrow night flaked. We haven't gotten those. But when that was happening, and I actually did have a DJ that I had a friend of mine who I had hired to help me out, and sure enough, they had gotten a call from it, and they were covering doing something for me that was a couple $100, and their regular rate was 4 or 5 times that, whatever it was. You just feel like a heel because they like, no, don't worry, I'll be there for you. And it's like, that they just threw a lot of money away, or turned a lot of money down. So there's the positives and the negatives for surely. So let's continue on that. Instead of maybe one of our more established DJ friends, how about if there's a newer DJ out there, somebody who is just getting started, and when it's like, oh my gosh, if you have anything, send it my way. I'd love to come and help. What are your thoughts about using some of
this? I'm working through this right now. Like I've kind of referenced a couple times, my photo booth guy, he's leaving. I happened to do a charity event this past spring and the guy saw my photo booth, and he actually reached out to me, and he's just like, hey, I love your photo booth. I want to potentially, subcontract it. And I was like, awesome. So we started talking some different things, and he's going to come out on a couple events with me this fall. Again, not real established, doesn't really want to push himself too much. He's kind of like, if I get the events, great. If I don't, no big deal.
Sure.
But it's been kind of cool to say, hey, come along for also the standpoint of, and I think it's been referenced in the chat a couple of different times where people said, I had so-and-so help me because, or I've had to turn down X, Y, and Z because, I didn't have somebody lined up. And so if you can grab somebody at the right time in their career to where they have a passion that they want to do it, but yet not to the point where they're, out on their own entirely, you now have a potential setup to start a multi-op, if you will, two-system multi-op. Even if it starts out as just a regular assistant type position, or whether you're actually planning on going, more direction of the multi-op feel. So pros, you've got somebody who's eager, wants to help out. You've got somebody who's wanting to learn, which is another thing that is awesome. You will, from a teacher standpoint, you will not learn as much doing as you will teaching.
Yeah.
And for those of you who have any type of educational background, like in that field, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. For the rest of you, it's one of those things. We learn so much by what we do. We learn so much by what we absorb. But when we go and we can actually teach somebody, we take it to that next level for ourselves. And so when you try and describe to somebody what you need to do, it starts to raise your own game in that. So definitely pros, not just for that other person, but also for yourself. The cons is, if they're new, unless you get them at the right time and unless you can hook, line, and sinker to be part of your team, at some point they're no longer new. And at some point they're no longer just going to be satisfied with just coming along. Yep. They're going to want to be gone. So
off doing their thing. Yeah. Kind of bridges to the next one. This is going to be kind of a variation, but it does happen where you will have you'll tap a photographer. Maybe there's a photographer friend who's usually out doing weddings. They've got the weekend off. I need a photo booth operator, and I could tap that person. You get to the similar problems with, well, they could get a last minute gig. They could have some situations like that. I think the biggest one when in working with other vendors, and I worked with a photographer in this way where they did some work for me. I had a videographer who did some things for me, and I had a decorator who came with and did some things with me. The biggest thing that I had is that they all have an idea of what things should be like and how things should go. And sometimes because they're in essence a fellow, I mean, this is getting back even to the DJ, an experienced DJ with you, that sometimes that they will let that, that they're not going to play that subservient role. And instead of saying, go do your thing and I'll do my thing, they'll be like, I bet you if you played this song, I bet you if you would make it so you're this or that, and you really should. It seems that when you have other experienced professionals, that can happen quite a bit. And if you're okay with that, you're great. But after a little bit, it could be kind of chafing. It's the best way to describe it, I think.
I think Mike Walters also has mentioned that when he's looking for people, rarely will he ever consider somebody who has DJ background. Mm-hmm. Also because sometimes they have bad habits that they don't want to break, that they're not ready to break. So sometimes it's better to tap that inexperienced person, but depending on what we're talking about, I mean, if we're talking about bringing somebody on to your company, versus helping you out here or there also can make a difference.
Okay. The last one, the last three actually areas that we're going to hit we've kind of talked about a variety of different people, types of people. I want to talk about some ways of maybe finding someone to help. Back in the day, it would have been in the little classified ad section, the ad in the paper saying, help wanted, DJ assistant. No experience necessary, will train. Please make sure you like the Minnesota Vikings. Call da-da-da-da-da. Wait a second. Please make sure you like the Minnesota Twins because they're winning there. Yeah. Call that. That's all you got to make sure. Have you ever done anything with advertising for help in a paper?
No, because by the time I was comfortable enough to bring somebody along,
papers were an obsolete thing. In some areas, they still work. I mean, Lori does our local newspaper, and she's got an incredible reach yet, considering where newspapers are. The thing with the newspaper ads, when we ran them, and Mike Walter talks about this, is that you will get people who will come in from all walks of life, all types of things, and most of the time, whenever I ran an ad looking for a DJ, even though it said mobile DJ, doing weddings, and the number of people who were like, I want to be a radio DJ, and they would go to the interview, you're sitting down, and they're like, yeah. So finding people through things like newspaper ads, while it's still there, and I know Mike Walters talked about it. Craigslist is another one. I would put that basically similar to to that world. I would highly recommend not going that direction. Not in this day and age. Craigslist, scary. The next one. This one is one that I think that has a little bit in our modern age. A help wanted on Facebook Marketplace. That Facebook Marketplace has some advantages, and if you guys have not done anything with that, if you've never been out to the Facebook Marketplace on your device, it's really kind of a cool thing. It's like Craigslist with a little bit more security. Would that be a good way to say it?
What do you mean by security?
That I can go, if somebody posts something or somebody inquires about something, I can go back to a profile and I can generally kind of, yes, there's sometimes that they're really good and they're sketch, but they hide it well. Most of the time you can kind of tell if you're dealing with a semi-legitimate person or if you've got somebody who's like bad news, stay away, as opposed to those people who would call from that ad or those people who would respond to that Craigslist ad, which half of them in that world were just completely sketch.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at it just from the standpoint, what I've noticed is when you check profiles, usually the ones that are the red flags that you wouldn't have found out with Craigslist or with the classified ads, people are less willing to hide. on Facebook, the ones that are those red flags. So you can usually see it. It's in a picture. They're flipping off somebody, or they're, this person is horrible, or this type of person is horrible. Those are just like right there. Like
Red flags.
they're not even trying to hide anything.
Yeah. That's when they've got all sorts of nasty propaganda things all over their Facebook page. That might be a good thing not to respond. So the Facebook Marketplace has been my personal way of because we've had to have some people with some different business things that we've worked with, and today my feeling is that if you're looking for someone to help on a semi-regular basis, like with a photo booth, is this day and age, it's to put that. It used to be that you could go and say, hey, do you know what? You talk to your neighbor or your family and say, hey, do you know anybody who would help? Facebook has become that, where you can go on your personal page, or even if you've got like a neighborhood garage sale page. I find that those have been some of the best ways to find local referrals and such, and to go in there and say, hey, I'm looking for anybody have experience looking for someone to patch concrete or fix this, fix that, what have you. And I see people who are looking for, for someone I need someone to help do this. And people are making suggestions. And once again, you can click and follow. And I think that in this day and age, especially if we were going to be looking for someone to help on a regular basis, which I'm a few years away from that again with the boys all being at that age, that would be my probably route I would go, is I'd put it up on my Facebook page and say, hey, I need someone, available Sunday night. And I've seen numerous DJs do this. Somebody Sunday night from 7 to 10, and it's going to include a little of this, a little of that. Anyone up for that? And I'm going to pay $100 for you to come and do this for a friend of mine on Facebook. He runs a bar and he also DJs, and I've seen any number of times where he needs someone to come in and be doing something in the bar for a few hours. Whether it's take tickets at the door or whatever, and he posts that up, and he gets he'll get 10, 12 names put up there. And then he can go through and check it out and see if there's somebody and tap them if he needed to for the night.
The thing that I would caution with that, if you will, because I tried that once or twice, and what ended up happening was I would get a response, and like the first couple of people that would respond were people that I did not want. So you talked about the person that would be at the corner of the dance floor that would be like this and scowling and stuff at me, or the person that probably might be able to do the job, but not quite. And so they're close enough that you don't want to tick them off, they're acquaintances, they're friends. So you don't want to tick them off and go, no, I really don't want your help because you've got,
whatever,
resting face. But, in the same respect. So the caution that I would give is if you decide to put something like that up, put it up mid-morning, and then stay off of Facebook, like all day. Just stay off. Hope you're not doing this that last second. Stay off of Facebook that day. So that way, when you do come back onto Facebook, you've got a listing of people. Then when it looks like you're going to get a person, you can just be like, listen, I got everybody's, and I was looking, and this person volunteered, and, I think it would be a great match. And you don't go by having to turn that first person down because they messaged you right away. And just hope they don't call or text you, because that happened one time too.
That's a good point. Yeah, if you stay off Facebook, stay off Messenger, they can't see that you saw the message. You've bought yourself some time to do some sorting, and then you can come in at 6 o'clock or whatever that evening, and then it'll show, oh, look they just saw my message, and then you can read back at 6:30 and say, oh, thanks for that message, but... Yeah, that's a good tip. Very good tip, Dan. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective, but yeah, that could get uncomfortable really quick.
Well, and that goes for anything. We obviously, you can see the junk in my back. We just got done moving, and I had some friends that offered to help, and that was wonderful. And then I had some acquaintances that offered to help, and they're super nice people. Don't get me wrong, but it was just one of those things where I also knew the friends that I had that were helping, and I knew the friends that were offering to help. And I didn't see the two meshing well together. So it was just one of those things where I didn't want to tell them that, but I also, so I see it, you see it in all types and shapes and sizes, but just a little tip.
Yeah. Give it a shot. Good points. Good points. So hopefully, there's a few things in tonight's show that will help you guys out a little bit as you're looking for for some help, and maybe you've got it all figured out and doing way better than we are. It wouldn't be the first time, probably wouldn't be the last time. Coming up this week, tonight, of course, there were 3 shows. You can go back and check those out. We had the PBNTV, our very first live stream show on PBNTV with Brandon Havrilla tonight, talking about an update on his iPad photo booths, and he had some pretty cool things there. Nick Hahn was on talking about some club things. Tomorrow night, we're back with Ben Stowe, and we're going to do this show. This is one of the most searched terms of does wattage matter with speakers? If you go look in Google, that's been searched a gazillion times. We've done shows upon shows talking about this, but we've never done that title of show. Tomorrow, we're doing that title of show. You guys, for those of you who've been with Ben Stowe and I, a lot of times, you're going to hear a lot of the same information. What will be new tomorrow is Ben was going to go and come up with some ways to take that 1200 watt ETX speaker and that 2000 watt Gemini speaker, which we know there's going to be a world of difference, and how to be able to evaluate watts per sound pressure and such. So that should be kind of interesting because, Ben's kind of techie. So this could be really interesting. I'm sure it's going to have something with a cup of water, a Mentos floating, and a playing card. And he's going to be able to test speakers with that somehow, way, shape, or form.
He's the MacGyver.
Gum wrapper. Wrigley's gum wrapper. Okay. So anyway, that's tomorrow night. Then the second show tomorrow night at 10 o'clock, Brian Red and I are going to be talking about an upcoming DJ event in November coming up, the DJ Meetup. And Brian and I are going to be both speaking there. We're going to be flying over to Allentown to hang out there in early November, that first Monday, Tuesday in November. And we're going to talk to Owen and Donnie from the DJ Meetup a little bit about what the whole event is about and what's going to be happening. And you guys will be able to jump in and get some tickets tomorrow night to the event because there are still a few tickets. They're limiting it to only 100 people, I believe, and I think that most of the tickets are sold. There's only a few left. So we'll be talking to them tomorrow night. Wednesday, we'll be back with Steve Lynch from the Atlanta Photo Booth Company. He's going to be doing our Wednesday night PBN TV Gear Night, which is for the photo booth side. So every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern, we're going to be talking gear. Then at 10 o'clock, we've got Jeremy and Dave. They're back again. Wedding Chat will be kicking off their fall series. The guys are going to be coming back on a regular basis because they get sad and lonely if they don't talk to you every week or so. So they're going to be starting back up again Wednesday night. So it's going to be a busy week this week, Dan.
It is. Yeah. It is, but action-packed, great shows. I will say this. I find it funny that Dave's been laid up since his biking accident. Now he's mobile, and now he's doing the show.
Yeah. He probably was busier when he was laid up than he probably...
That's true.
Yeah, that's just...
Because he had to line everything up. He was the guy who needed tonight's show.
He probably could have been able to share some horror stories with... That's good. One final thing, for those of you who have heard, we're going to be doing a DJ show in Las Vegas in February of 2020 with in conjunction with the Photo Booth Expo. Photo Booth Expo is going to be over here. The Disc Jockey News is going to have our convention over here. So it's going to be February 24th, 25th, 26th, 3 days of great education and great content. We're hoping to have the full schedule up by Friday. It's like 90% done. I'm waiting on like 3 different people to kind of clarify and such. So tomorrow we're going to sit down and we're going to hammer out the rest of the photo booth side. There's people who are doing the photo booths track. And then I've been kind of putting together the DJ track. We're going to compare notes and make sure everything jives tomorrow. And then by Friday, I'm hoping to be able to tell you everyone who's going to be there. I know most of them, but there's a couple yet that could be some fun surprises. So that one you can go out to djntv.com/Vegas, and that will take you out to the event page. Just go and click to like that, interested, what have you, so you can be kept up to date as more information drops on that. Okay, I think we got it.
Awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah. Whew. Now it's time to go take a nap.
It is. Or it could be like a normal person, just go to bed.
Oh, yeah. Hey, it is that time of the day.
It's that time.
All right, take us home, Dan.
All right, so on that note, well, again, I tell you guys every week, but thank you so very much for tuning in. Without you tonight, first off, we wouldn't have it. It'd just be John and I talking, and that's fun.
We'd entertain ourselves.
But yeah, but thank you very much for tuning in. And if you missed any part of the show, of course, it's going to be available for replay. And even if you just want to catch all the stuff that John mentioned at the end of all the shows coming up this week, check out this part of the show to replay that part as well. We will be back here next Monday with another great topic for you. and have a great night.
Good day, everybody. Bye-bye.